Strokes can also be edited with the Strokes panel. To get to the Strokes panel, I'm going to go up to Window, Stroke. I'll close out of the Swatches panel for a minute. Here's my Stroke panel. The Stroke panel allows me to select not only the weight of the stroke, but also the cap of the stroke. The cap means I'm going to use the line tool here just to draw a straight line. If I hold the Shift key, it will keep the line at an angle of 45 degrees, so either a horizontal line, 45-degree angle, or a 90-degree angle. So I'm holding the Shift key because I just want to create a horizontal line. I'm going to set the stroke weight of that line, which I can do either in the Control panel or in my Stroke panel. And I'll set it to 20 just so it's really obvious. And then I'm going to take the Zoom tool and zoom in on the end of it so you can really see it clearly. When I select what I want the cap to look like, I have three options. One is that I can have my stroke end right at my anchor point, which is that point that finishes my line. I can have it curve around the anchor point, or I can have it squared off around the anchor point. Also, I have the option for creating a squared off, curved, or beveled join. A join is where a stroke changes direction. So I'm going to try taking my pen tool here, and I'm going to draw a squared off line. Again, I'll make that stroke nice and thick so you can see it. And I'll show you what those options look like. There's a squared off join. There's a rounded join. And that's what a beveled join looks like. It also gives you this option for a miter limit. What that means is you may want to limit how far this join of the stroke extends. It's a little confusing when I say that, but I'm going to click on the end so I can show you what I mean. You can see as that angle becomes tighter and tighter, the stroke becomes longer. The join point of my line there becomes longer and longer. What that miter limit does is it caps how far this join point can extend. So right now it's set to 4, and you may have noticed that as I dragged that bottom point down a little further, my line capped off there. That's because the miter limit is set to 4. I'm going to hit Control-0 to zoom back out, but that gives you a sense of both the caps and the joins on your strokes. I'm actually going to get rid of those two as well. And I'm going to select my object, and I'm going to set the type of stroke back to a solid line because I want to show you also about aligning the stroke. There are three options for aligning the stroke. You can have the stroke centered around the path defining your object. You can have the stroke completely inside. You see how my stroke line jumped inside that blue frame line. Or I can have it completely outside. There are a couple of reasons you might want to do this. The default is to leave it centered, but if you need your graphic to be a specific size, it can be useful to put that stroke around the inside of the object, because otherwise the stroke will butt out a little bit into the space outside your object. Alternatively, if you want to be sure to include all of a given picture all the way to the edge of your frame, then by placing the stroke outside, you guarantee that the stroke doesn't overlap any of your image. There are several options for strokes. As we noted, there are a bunch of different types. Also, if you have a straight line like I had before, I'll make that a little bigger again. You have options for what the caps look like. Drag it down away from my box. And I can select a bar or an arrow point or a circle to start or finish my line. Also have an option here for gap color. That means the space, if I have a divided stroke, such as the thick and thin line or the hatch strokes, I can apply a color in between, not just the outside color of the line. So I could apply that to, say, the cyan color, and you can see now I have a cyan bar in between the thick and thin strokes of my stroke.